Church of Nigeria and Church of Canada Anglican Communion issues preventive measures against COVID-19. Kenya confirms first case of coronavirus in East Africa. Court of Arbitration for Sports postpones CSS FIFA ban appeal hearing. We welcome you to the news on the hour, brought to you from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN Television. I am Phoebe Agimenhu. In what could be tagged a pastoral approach, the Church of Nigeria has prayerfully followed the development and reaction of governments and organizations in handling the threat of coronavirus labeled COVID-19, a pandemic that needs to be handled with all seriousness. Because of that, the leadership of the Church of Nigeria, under His Grace, the Most Reverend Dr. Nicholas D. Oko, through the General Secretary, Church of Nigeria, the Venerable Geshin Paul Dajo, has directed that certain steps be taken as guides against contacting and communicating the virus among the people. He made this known in an interview with ACNN News correspondent Uzubechi Frank at the national headquarters of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion in Abuja.
So the steps taken so far are, one, that the church should not panic. There's nothing that is above God. Even coronavirus is not above God. It will come to pass by the grace of God. So we're believing that church members and leaders will be so encouraged to trust in God as the first step towards handling this pandemic. The second step is that some parts of our worship, the uniqueness of the Anglican worship is that we share one chalice, which is the communion cup. That has been the practice of the church for times immemorial. It's a good practice, but in the light of the fact that this disease or this virus is communicable, and to forestall the spread of it in the place of worship, the leadership of the church has decided that if it were possible, churches and places of worship should suspend the use of single chalice for everybody and then use the communion cups that individuals can use. The second thing is that in our service, there's the exchange of peace, which is usually demonstrated by handshakes and also sometimes hugging. Now, since it is communicable virus, the church again is saying at times when we will exchange peace in church, there are other ways, godly gestures that portrays that we are showing peace with one another and we are showing love to one another. So instead of exchange of shaking of hands and hugs, what we could do as a church is either to take a mutual bow or to wave or to mark the sign of a cross, or as best as the bishops will so direct in their respective dioceses, so we can avoid so much contact. Then another step again that the church is taking is to encourage churches and institutions and places to make available wash hand basins with soap for people to wash hands as frequent as they can, or to have hand sanitizer. That way, before people get into the church, they wash their hands, they sanitize, and before such things are, other things in the church are done, people ensure that their hands are clean. So these are some of the steps that the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion has taken. And we believe and we're trusting that the members of our church will understand this is not in any way to undermine the Anglican faith or the faith that we have in Christ Jesus. It is just a pastoral approach that the church is taking, because the souls of men under our guide, under the leadership of this church, must be watched over, because they are the flock of God and they must not be allowed to be destroyed by not handling this situation appropriately.
The Diocese of Ogbaru Anglican Communion has kicked off this year's Word Conference as members of the diocese were seen arriving the conference venue with an opening prayer said by Canon Luke Chukwubueze, after which the band led in praises. In accordance with the opening charge, the diocesan, the Right Reverend Prosper Ama, JP, led the congregation in a marathon prayer for the church, the nation, and for the help of God towards the recent emergence of coronavirus, which is speedily spreading all over the world. Furthermore, the opening charge with the theme Total Dominion came as a wake-up call to all believers all over the world to rise from their slumber, to rise from everything holding them under hostage, to embrace God, knowing fully well that He alone can help them dominate territories in this time and season. The program featured all manner of prayers for salvation, for the sick, amongst others, and will end on the 15th of March 2020. And now to the international scene. Kenya has announced its first confirmed case of coronavirus, saying a woman who returned from the United States tested positive for the illness in Nairobi. The case is a Kenyan citizen who traveled back to Nairobi, returning from the United States of America via London, United Kingdom, on March 5, 2020. Report says the woman's temperature had returned to normal and she was stable and recovery in isolation. It is the first confirmed case of the new coronavirus in the East African region. With the declaration by the World Health Organization that COVID-19 is now officially a pandemic, the Archbishop and Primate of the Anglican Church of Canada, Most Reverend Linda Nichols, has advised the church to be actively engaged in protecting themselves and those around them. Also, bishops across Canada are putting in place best practices for that protection in their communities in regular announcements based on local risk. This includes no contact versions of sharing the peace, reduced or no passing of the collection plates, communion in one kind only, increased availability of hand sanitizer, increased attention to hygiene for all worshippers and worship leaders, limitations on pastoral and community activities. Archbishop Nichols urged every Anglican to be diligent in personal practices and to protect those around them who may be vulnerable. The Right Reverend John McDowell, Bishop of Cloha, has been elected by the House of Bishops as the new Archbishop of Ama and Primate of all Ireland, as he succeeds Archbishop Richard Clark, who retired on 2nd February this year. Bishop McDowell is currently chairman of the Church of Ireland's Commission for Christian Unity and Dialogue. The translation will take effect from 28 April and the enthronement date will be announced in due course. Upon taking up his responsibilities as Archbishop of Ama, Bishop McDowell will be the 106th in the succession of abbots, bishops and archbishops of Ama since St. Patrick. Stay to come. Chelsea player Hudson Odoi says he's recovered from coronavirus. That story and more will come your way in a moment. Please stay tuned.
At the King's Court is a program where we worship and praise the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords through various musical renditions. So join me, Eukaria Ozovehe, at the King's Court every Tuesday by 6 p.m. on this station, and it promises to be exciting and rewarding.
Glad to have you back on ACNN News. For more on our top stories, please visit our website at acnntv.com or youtube.com/ACNNTV. To be up to date with our news and other programs, download the VM Africa app for Android from Google Play Store. Work to reinstate Christchurch Cathedral in the New Zealand city of Christchurch could finally get started by Easter. The cathedral has been closed since it was partially destroyed in an earthquake in February 2011. The diocese had planned to demolish and rebuild a new cathedral on the site, but a public campaign for reinstatement claimed victory after a deal involving the diocese's property trustees and synod, the New Zealand government and Christchurch City Council was agreed in September 2017. For the past 14 months, workers have been preparing the site by collecting and recording artifacts and securing it. Now, an application for resource agreement which is the legal authority to begin work, has been lodged with Christchurch City Council for the first phase of the work to reinstate the building. The wife of Canadian Prime Minister Sophie Trudeau has tested positive to coronavirus. This was according to a statement from the Prime Minister's office that, however, clarified that the Prime Minister was in good health with no symptoms, although he has been placed in a 14 days isolation as a precautionary measure. The wife was said to be feeling well, taking the recommended precautions, and her symptoms remained mild, but the office had earlier announced that Sophie was tested for coronavirus after flu-like symptoms. The deadly disease has killed 5,000 people out of 135,000. About 100 countries have been infected. And now to some sports news. Court of Arbitration for Sport CAS has postponed the hearing of former Super Eagles coach Samson Siasa's appeal until further notice. Hearing was scheduled for March 19, but due to the coronavirus outbreak, it has been postponed. The arbitral panel is called upon to resolve the dispute between Samson Siasa and FIFA. Siasa won the 1994 Africa Cup of Nations with Nigeria and played in their maiden World Cup appearance later that same year. He played over 50 times for the Super Eagles while scoring 16 goals. As a coach, he led his country's under-20 and under-23 sides to continental success in 2005 and 2015, respectively. Chelsea's players and coaching staff were ordered into isolation as Callum Hudson-Odoi became the first Premier League player confirmed to have the new coronavirus. The news cast the viability of this weekend's games further into doubt after Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta tested positive, also throwing their team into lockdown. Chelsea said they would discuss their upcoming games, starting with Sunday's trip to Aston Villa with Premier League officials. 2 Arsenal fixtures, including Wednesday's game at Manchester City and away to Brighton on Saturday, have already been cancelled because of the virus. Meanwhile, Hudson-Odoi has just released a video on his official Twitter page saying he has recovered and hopes to be out soon.
Hi guys, as you may be aware, I had the virus for the last couple of days, which I've recovered from. I'm following the health guidelines and self-isolating myself from everybody for the week. I hope to see everybody soon and hopefully be back on the pitch very soon. Take care.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for watching. I am Phoebe Agirenyo. God bless.